Hi, everybody. James here on Don't Come For Me, the first episode of my podcast. The first episode is called Rising Above Emotions, right? I thought that'd be a good topic, dealing with emotions, because we've all been emotional. And just understand, when you listen to this podcast, it's going to be helpful for you and for me, because I'm talking to myself at the same time as I'm talking to you. So we're going to be able to grow and work through things together and bring value to each other in order to help become better people. So with that being said, the first title is Rising Above Emotions. And I want to break down the word of each. I want to give you the definition of each word as we go forward, so we know exactly what we're dealing with and exactly what the topic is and how to address it. So now the first word, rising, it is an adjective, going up, increasing, or slopping upward, meaning that you're going to a higher level, you're going upward. The second word, above, preposition, in extended space over. Make sure I was recording. An extended space over and not touching. That's the word above. And then emotion is a noun, plural noun, emotions, a natural instinctive state of mind deriving from one's circumstances, mood, or relationships with others. So now we know what each word defined means. So now we know how to address it. So let's see where emotions come from. How does emotion stand, right? So I had these notes from a study guide that we have called Rising Above Emotions into the Thinking of God. It's a study guide that we have in the nation, and I thought it'd be a good reference to help in the topic of rising above emotions. So this particular part is talking about the brain and where emotions come from. The brain is not only an organ of intellect and logic, it is also the source of emotion. Okay. Emotions are brought to life in what is known as the limbic system. That's spelled Limbic system. The limbic system is a collection of parts that constitute approximately 20% of the brain area. The forces of pride, fear, joy, grief, anger, lust, hatred, envy, jealousy arise from this region of the brain. Now, wow. Now, you thought emotions was deep. You thought emotions was heavy. Just think that part of the brain is what stimulates all these different aspects that we deal with on a daily basis, right? We all feel grief. We all feel pain. We all feel hurt. We all feel certain emotions that cause us to do certain things, whether good or bad, that make us and put us in a place that could hurt us or could make us better. So I wanted to give you that information about where it stems from for emotions, so you know exactly what we're looking at as far as how to move forward and where it comes from. Now, emotion is an intensified feeling. It can become so strong and overpowering that it masters the mind or judgment. Now, a lot of us can relate to that, right? Especially if we've been in relationships. Have you ever heard a woman say, well, I just saw red. I just see red because I was going so crazy. I was so angry. I was so upset. I just saw red. That's an emotion that derives from the inside of you. Or a man says, I just went crazy. I couldn't control my emotions. I couldn't stop myself. I couldn't help myself. I hit that person. I stabbed that person. I shot that person. And those things that we do from emotions that derive from the brain and constitute the movement of our body and how we act or react can put us in some hell of a position. And that's why if we can rise above emotions, we can become better people and we can make better decisions. Now, let's break it. Let me get into some notes that I have. The improper handling of emotion does not allow us to grow beyond self. It makes our reasoning subjective and clouds our judgment of individuals, circumstances, and events. Let's stop right there. Have you ever heard somebody say, I don't like that person? I don't like that nigga. I don't like that nigga be tripping. I don't like that bitch. I don't like that female. You know, I'm giving it to you in street terms. I'm not being vulgar or explicit. I just want to give it to you how people talk nowadays so you can relate to it a little bit more than the average, right? I'm not trying to preach, not trying to teach. I just want to give you straight, uncut information so we can dissect it and digest it to become better. And that's the whole goal of this. So when you say that, that's an emotion. And sometimes the emotion can be so strong in our brain that the emotion can be so strong in our brain that's not even true. It'll cause us to do things and we don't know why the hell we're doing it. We'll walk through a crowd. Watch out, motherfucker, move. I'm pissed off. Well, why you pissed off? Man, I don't know. I just feel a certain way. I feel a certain way about that person. Well, what they do to you? I don't know. I like the way they look at me. They're too tall. They're too light. They're too dark. They're too fat. They're too skinny. All these things are emotions that derive inside of us that we don't even know the reason why, but it affects us and how we deal with people that we may or may not even know. Now let's get into the next part of it. It makes us judge individuals, circumstances, and events by how we are affected personally. How we are affected. Meaning that if you like, hey man, I don't like what you said to us. I don't care. Fuck you. I don't care how you look. If you don't like the way I said something to you, hey, I don't like how you work, or when you're at work you don't do enough work. Well, the hell with you, manager or supervisor, doesn't matter. Or if we have a client, like being in real estate or entertainment or a different business, I don't like how you handle my transaction. Oh well, get over it. I mean, sometimes you shouldn't say that, but sometimes people say that. So that's affected personally. Thus, we never see the bigger picture. Improper handling of emotion makes us judge selfishly. Now, what does that mean, right? Have you ever been in a situation to where, let's go into relationship aspect of it, where you're with a person, male or female, you are married, or your fiance or boyfriend or girlfriend, and because the woman or the man treats you a certain type of way, you justify that emotionally, that I'm going to now talk to somebody else. I'm going to now interact with somebody else. I'm going to now sleep with somebody else. I'm going to now go out with somebody else. Or I'm not going to talk to you. I'm not going to do the things I usually do for you. Or I'm going to ghost you. Or I'm not going to answer your call or your text, because of the emotions and what derives from that and what makes us feel a certain type of way. Now, let's break it down even further. Let me get some more notes for you. Where does emotions come from, right? We know it stimulates from the brain. We know how it makes our body react. We know how it makes it react personally. But where does the root of emotions come from? And emotion comes from, or stems from, disappointment. Disappointment is the failure to meet an objective, right? So, growing up, if your parents said, hey man, not hey man, but your parents said, hey, I'm going to go ahead and buy you a toy. Oh, okay, well, I'm gonna get you a toy next Wednesday. Or I'm gonna buy you some shoes next Wednesday. You're like, okay, great. Thanks mom, thanks dad. Next Wednesday rolls around, next Thursday rolls around, no shoes, no toy, no nothing. You're like, well, I thought you said, yeah, but I didn't have them. They don't tell you why. Yeah, I just couldn't do it. So now the emotion comes from the disappointment. The disappointment is you didn't keep your word on what you said you were going to do and buy me these items. So now I'm pissed off. So you stomp away. Fuck you, mama. Fuck you, daddy. You ain't shit. Wait. What you say? Your parents say, what you say? I ain't say nothing. You go slam your door, because now you're emotionally engulfed in that disappointment of your parents. Let's make it more prevalent to what adults do. The disappointment of being in a relationship. You said you're going to empty the trash. You didn't empty the trash, sir. Why you didn't empty the trash? Well, I was tired. I didn't get a chance to. I was working late. Why you don't empty the trash? Okay, so now the wife has disappointment. You said you was going to cook, honey. Why you didn't cook? Well, I worked an 8-hour shift. I didn't get a chance to cook. I had to get the children. Now I'm disappointed. Now I'm upset. And that disappointment becomes emotions. Well, now it turns, what's our judgment going to be? Because when you get angry, you can get crazy thoughts. Anger is a fire, and controlled or out of control, that fire can burn. And I know, because so let me say this. I've been on both sides of disappointment. I've disappointed people and I've been disappointed. I've been with another friend of mine that I used to date. She used to tell me that I would act flippant. And flippant is a slang word for being emotional and being upset. And a lot of that emotions would come from things that I thought were going on and happening, and they ended up not being true. But because I had it in my mind, I was pissed off and I let that emotion show. So how do we get past this emotion? How do we deal with it? One of the things I've learned is that sometimes, what I always tell myself now is that never panic, right? So if something comes to me, if I see a text, if I read an email, if I talk to somebody, I always say, don't panic. Because in that moment of being emotional, there's so many things that can come out of it, right? So let's look at the news. There's so much that goes on in the news. The football player who they didn't like the score. So the dude pulls out a gun and he shoots him in front of everybody. That's going off of emotion, right? The woman who hops out of a truck, she shoots at the truck. Hops out the truck to shoot at the car. The car drives away. She shoots at the car again. There's a 2-year-old child in the backseat of the car, and she's shooting at the car. We've heard of parents taking their children's lives and their own lives. We've heard of so many different aspects of things that happen in this world because people can't control their emotions, that we have to learn how to control our emotions, including me. I have to learn that. I think I've become better and more mature over the years, but we have to be able to keep that mindset. So I can give you a more recent example. I'm dealing with a transaction and the agent tells me, he says, hey, you know what? My seller doesn't want to do this, and this. I said, well, hell, man, we giving you this. And he says, James, calm down. I understand what you're saying, but I'm telling you what my seller says, who doesn't really understand, or this is their perspective. Now, how can we make it work? There again, flippant, angry. I want to get it done a certain way, so I automatically turn into emotions. And that is what causes us to have problems, and that is what causes us to have an issue. When someone is disappointed, they are imbalanced and not sane. So again, go back to what I said earlier. You've heard the expression from a woman, I was seeing red. I don't know what was going on. I was just swinging. I started shooting. I grabbed the knife. And that disappointment arrives most of the time from what we're not doing for a person. So let me give you a breakdown of that, of what I think, of something that I think that can help us. When we are able to see beyond the effect to the cause that produced the effect, then our decisions are no longer emotional. They are made with precision. What does that mean? Okay, let's give you an example. Let's say I'm dating a woman, and the woman's tired of me because I keep telling her I'm gonna do something. And that woman says, you know what? To hell with you. I'm gonna go find me another man. And this man does all the things that you say that you weren't gonna do, so I go cheat on you now. And now I'm pissed. I'm livid. And let me tell you, women, men get angry because you go cheat, right? That's one thing. But men really understand deep down inside, with all this craziness in culture and rap and songs, men understand the value of a woman. And that's going to be another topic for another day, the value of a woman. But men, we understand the value of a woman. And we know how sacred a woman's private part is. Unless that woman is considered a prostitute or a hoe or a flip or whatever the slang term is, we feel like a lot of men have been through them. We know the value of that woman and her body part. So we feel like we put the effort into it, and we've cultivated it, and we've supported it, and we've helped it. And you go out to another man because of the value that we know, whether we say it or not, whether we display it or not, we know that value of you and your body. That makes us crazy, to the point to where there are men locked in prison. There are men that have been killed. There are men that have hurt people. There are men that have just done a lot of craziness behind that woman, because for us, being a conqueror of woman, we feel like that's part of the culture. But a woman is supposed to be sacred, and we know that. So when you go out, that emotion becomes becomes a lot more angry. Let me say that. It becomes a lot more angry. So that first part that I said, when we are able to see beyond the effect to the cause, what produced the effect, then our decisions are no longer emotional. They are made with precision. So if I understand, yes, you did this, and you did this because I didn't do what I was supposed to do, so now I'm not as emotional. I'm using precision in my decision of emotions, because I understand that you did this because I didn't do that. Now go back to the child example I gave. If we understood, like, look, we couldn't buy you this toy or these shoes because we had a bill come up. We had to pay the light bill, or our check was short and we had to buy more groceries for the house. Now we understand the reasoning behind that disappointment, and we can conquer our anger. The second part of that is, this does not mean we will act without intense feeling. It means that we will be in such complete control of our feelings that our decisions will be completely rational. Now, that's when we get to the nitty gritty. How do we become rational? How do we take time to think, or even ask the question deeper, why did you do this? Now, granted, people don't have to answer that question for us. They can be like, hey, man, I just did it because I wanted to. Fuck you. That's their prerogative, men or women. They can do that. And we've all had that done to us. And for the most part, we've probably done that to people knowingly or unknowingly. But at the end of the day, if we can figure out why the cause of our disappointment has happened, then we can respond accordingly. And if we can respond accordingly, that can cause us a lot of unnecessary grief, a lot of unnecessary heartbreak, a lot of unnecessary anger and disappointment, because now we know, right? So think about a lot of people who are in prison, male and female. And a friend of mine was telling me yesterday, he was saying, James, I used to ask people in the neighborhood, how many minutes did it take you to get this many years? And I said, well, what do you mean? How many minutes did it take you to commit that crime to get 7, 10, 15 years? And when you look at things like that, it breaks it down to what we're talking about as far as the emotions and what is going on in our brain to commit that time. Because most of the time, if we go to jail or something's happened and we calm down, we like, damn, man, I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have slept with that woman or that man. I shouldn't have hit that person. I shouldn't have pulled my gun out and started shooting. I could have handled that better. Look at the Chris Rock and Will Smith incident. Will Smith goes and apologizes, sincere or not. He apologizes. In that moment, he was emotional because of the disappointment, not of him, but because of his wife. And he took that disappointment of her into his emotions and attacked Chris Rock. But Chris Rock saying, hey, I know. Wow, this breaks it down. Chris Rock, he knew this does not. He knew when we are able to see beyond the effect of the cause that produced the effect, then our decisions are no longer emotional. They are made with precision. Chris Rock knew the effect of the decision. He knew the cause that produced that effect for Will Smith to come up there, and he responded with precision, which in turn he didn't respond at all, and it made him be the hero. He made him the person that was more rational and more thoughtful and non-emotional in that moment, to where Will Smith looked like the crazy person going up there acting a fool. And it put Chris Rock in a hero light. That was a great example that we could use for that note that we just talked about. So when we know these things, we have to figure out, when we come down off the anger and the emotions, how not to get to that anger and emotion. How do we suppress that? Does that mean thinking 5 times before we speak? Does that mean taking a step back and really analyzing the situation? Does that mean closing our eyes and saying a quick prayer, no matter what religion you are, and being able to ask God to guide us in the right way, or the Spirit to guide us in the right way, or Buddha, whoever, to guide us? Does that saying woosah, the classic line, you got to woosah in order to make the right decision? And not only that, let me break this down to you a little bit further. When there are people out there who push you to be emotional, and there are people out there who have nothing to lose. So you got to think, if you have a family, a good job, you take care of your children, or you're just in a good space, period, you don't want to use that emotion inside of you to put yourself in a situation that's going to cause you grief later on. You got to think of the bigger picture. And I think sometimes in those moments, we don't think about the bigger picture. Well, I just socked him. Why you do that? Shit, I don't know. I was emotional. I just slapped her. Why you do that? I was emotional. I just stabbed him. Well, why you grab the kitchen knife and stab the dude? Well, I was emotional. I saw red. But when we think about what the recourse is, if I pick this knife up and I stab this man, my children could be gone. The service is going to come and knock on the door. I could be in jail. I could lose my job. I could lose my house, my car. If I slap this man, if I pull my gun out and my pistol out and I shoot at this man or woman and I kill him, or I hit somebody, I'm going to be in jail 17 years. I'm going to miss my family. My children going to grow up without me. You have to look at what the consequences are based on the reaction of that emotion. And that's what I want to give you in this. Rising above emotion. Because when you can rise above that emotion, you can conquer anything. You can conquer people. You can conquer situations. You can conquer jobs. You can conquer everything in life that bring you ever listen to that clip? It's a viral clip of Nipsey Hussle when he said, I went through every emotion. I went through, and he says it like 2 or 3 times. He's interviewing with Big Boy on the radio, and he said, I went through every emotion. And we all go through those emotions, but when we get through those emotions, how do we gather ourselves and continue to move forward? When we get through those emotions, how do we say, okay, you know what? This happened, but damn, thank you, God. Thank you for what happened. I may not understand it, or I do understand it. I was the cause of it. I wasn't the cause of it. Whatever the case may be, I am going to go ahead and now move forward and become better and do better. And the way to rise above that emotion is to think about the consequences and then ask the question, or look deeper to, what did I do? Why did that person react that way? Why are they saying no? Why are they disappointing me? Is it something that I'm not doing, or is it something they doing? Am I with the wrong person? Am I around the wrong people? What is the procuring cause of this disappointment to cause me anger, to make me emotional? And when you figure that out, and when you take the time to dig deeper and to look into that and say, I got it. I shouldn't have done this, or I could have done better at this, or I did say I was going to do that and I didn't do it, so yeah, that is my fault. When you look at all those different aspects, then you got it. When you look at that and then you atone for it, you pray about it, you got it. And those are the things that you have to do to continue to move forward to become a better person. Rise above those emotions. Think more. Take your time. Pause. Look at the consequences and figure out, is it really worth the way you're going to react that way? And then what's going to happen to you? Because people on the other side, sometimes they don't care. Because you don't want to be in a situation, because you react, you lose your life or a loved one's life. or time in jail, or they get hurt. All these different things derive because of emotion, because of disappointment, because of anger. When someone is disappointed, they are imbalanced and not sane. You got to look at that, right? Because we hear about people on the news who kill their children, kill themselves, kill the wife, kill the husband. That's a lot of fucking killing. That's a lot that comes from disappointment that makes a person imbalanced, and now they're not sane. When you're dealing with a person that's not sane, that's the worst person that you could ever deal with, because they have nothing to lose when you have everything to lose. And that's what you have to look at. Another thing is, you do things because someone disappointed you, which we covered. Every disappointment has or is for some good. Oh, let's look at that again. Every disappointment has or is for some good. And the reason why I'll bring that point up is because when we're disappointed, it helps us. When we're disappointed, we become better. When we're disappointed, we become stronger. And that's what we want to be able to do as people, and become better and move forward and become stronger. So with that being said, thank you for taking time to listen to this episode. I hope that you found good out of it and it's helped you. Please tune in again. I'm going to be pushing to do 2 times a week. I'm not sure exactly what days yet, but I'll definitely post it. Please make sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us, comment, tell me what you think about it. Let me know your thoughts. I mean, I'm not perfect at it, but I'm giving you my thoughts and my life experiences, and I want you to give me something back. So let me know what you think about it, and thank you for listening.